So let's start with the rapid fire round just to break the ice. The first one is, at what age do you want to retire?
Never.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
30 minutes, but I can do it in 10.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Yet to experience.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
During the night, unfortunately.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Very few, fortunately.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is black.
AI with a human touch.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Roll.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
Musk.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Seeing mistakes as mistakes rather than simply feedback.
How do you relax?
Kickbox.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Too many.
A habit of yours that you hate.
Always chasing adrenaline.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Resilience.
Your favorite Netflix show.
Drive to survive.
One word description of your leadership style.
To the point. Oh, one word. That's not to the point. Point.
Top priority in your daily schedule.
Sports.
Ideal vacation spot for relaxation.
Italy.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance.
Sports.
Memorable career milestone.
When I became chief of staff at Bunq.
This episode is sponsored by Outgrow.co, the world's first all-in-one interactive content builder. Use Outgrow to build quizzes, calculators, tests, polls, forms, contests, and chatbots to generate leads and keep your audience engaged. Sign up for a free trial at https://outgrow.co.
Alright, so now let's go on to the long form questions, which you can answer with as much time and ease as you like. Alright, so the first one is, what strategies has Bunq employed to scale internationally and build a truly global company?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question because, so at Bunq, we built the first user-centric bank. So everything we do starts with our user, right? And if you look at scaling, we go wherever our users go. Our users are people who live an international lifestyle, so they go all across the globe. So what makes us good at scaling is that we focus. So our first focus has been Europe. But that actually brings me to another point, that Europe, there's no such thing as one Europe, right? If you look at Europe, there's all these different countries that have a different culture, different payment systems, different regulations. So we truly try to localize that. So basically we have a global approach, but we localize wherever we go. So what we do when we go in the market, we have a two-phased approach. First, we launch on a small scale, gather feedback, see what we can do to truly make our products in line with what people need locally. And then we go in blazing.
How do you ensure that Bunq's unique culture and values are maintained as you expand globally?
Yes, that's a challenging one. I must say we're growing really fast and we have a very typical company culture. Our DNA is what got us here. And I also think it's what's going to make us successful moving forward. Now, we're not only in Amsterdam anymore, we have offices all across the world and we're growing at rapid speed. So what is important is that we make sure that culture is not something that lives inside our heads. It needs to be something that comes back in all the processes that we have, everything that we have set up. So one of our focus areas is that our user is at the core of everything we do, right? So there's a couple of examples that we use to make sure that that's always maintained. One of them is that we have a template for any business case, any proposal, and it always starts with one question. What's in it for a user? And if you cannot answer that, we're not doing it.
And so speaking of how your DNA got you here, can you discuss Bunq's journey to profitability as a neobank?
Yes, of course. It is actually what sets us apart from other challenges in the market, right? So when we launched in 2015, we didn't only want to bring diversity of people to the sector, not only diversity of product, but also diversity of business models. If you look at the business models of traditional banks, it's by no means rocket science that you are not at the center of their decision making if the business model is focused on making the best margin on your money, right? So we had a very simple conviction. We thought if we build a product that people love to use, they're willing to pay for it. If they're willing to pay for it, then our commercial success is in direct alignment with the happiness of our users. And then we have no choice but to be user-centric in whatever we do. So over the last years, we decided to do things differently. We remained independent. We've been bootstrapped by our founder for nearly 10 years to really focus on finding our product market fit. What's this product that will make people happy? How can we put all our love and energy in that and build a profitable company? Profit was our first goal rather than just growth. And I'm very happy that we got to that point. We were the first EU neobank to report a full year of profitability last year. And we're very well on our way to do exactly the same this year.
How do you balance the drive for being profitable on the one hand with the need to invest money in being more innovative or having a better user experience?
Yeah, I think the balance is in that fact that our systems are very effective. So we have it set up. We work in such an efficient way that we can remain at profitable growth. Yeah, we can keep our profitability and actually reinvest that in growth. The goal is not to get the most profit. The goal is to be profitable and reinvest that in growing further.
And so how does Bunq identify and respond to these emerging user trends, particularly around location independence and technology?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I always think that I'm making a product for myself. I also live a very international lifestyle, a lot of international friends, a partner who lives in Rome, hence the rapid fire question. So we really look at our users' wants and needs. So we don't necessarily look at what's the trend out there. We go talk to them. We go find out what it is that they experience, and we build our product around that. So you can feed it in anything. Not sure if you at home use the Bunq app, but if you would, you can feel it in the experience, right? So I travel a lot for work and for life, and I sometimes travel from Europe to the US. I can easily switch between my US and Euro account. In fact, my app automatically detects it when I am in another country. So if I forget, I'll still pay easily without any markup fees. It's in everything we do. You can just feel it. So it's not necessarily responding to bigger trends. It's really talking to our users and finding out what it is that they want.
So let's take a break from the serious questions. What does your typical day at work look like? You wake up in the morning and
yes. I wake up in the morning and then, I think because I'm chief of staff, if you're not familiar with the role, it's originally comes from politics and it's gaining more traction in the tech sector as well. You could basically see me as the co-pilot to our founder and CEO, right? We're growing so fast. We're scaling at rapid speed. He can no longer be everywhere himself. So I make sure that together we can. So by default in these roles, you're not looking for work. The work comes your way and it's a matter of dealing with things that come your way. So either by delegating it to someone else, creating new process, deciding that this is indeed a gap that we need to hire. So it's more reactive. So in that sense, there is never a typical day in my life.
How much of this time is taken up by meetings?
Not a lot, because at Bunq, we have actually a policy, which is meetings can no longer be than 30 minutes and by default, 2 people only, because we think that's the most efficient way of getting things done.
And what advice would you have for job seekers looking to get into the banking sector?
In the banking sector, I don't know, because I always consider myself to be working in the tech sector. I think with anything, look for something that makes you forget about space and time and not something that will look good on your CV.
So going back to the serious questions. You often mention that impossible is just a word for things that have not been done yet. Can you share an example of how Bunq has turned a seemingly impossible idea into reality?
Yeah, of course. It's the fact that we exist, I think. So we were the first in 35 years to get a full European banking license. So basically what we've shown is that it's possible to create a bank, and it's possible to show consumers that they can have a far greater experience elsewhere. It was a long and tedious process getting a banking license. So we decided in collaboration with the regulator to simplify that process. So after we got our license, you've seen many more challengers getting licenses too, and a lot more quickly because we simplified it, which is great. So that's just one of the many examples.
And how do you inspire and cultivate this particular mindset within your team?
That's a good question. I think there's many ways of doing so. I think what sets Bunq apart is that we work with ownerships. So we don't make rules for the sake of creating rules. We really look at a problem that our user is facing, a validated problem, and we create an ownership around it. So someone becomes an owner of a problem that the user is facing, from ideation, creation, evaluation. So the entire scope of it. But what makes Bunq, so apart from the fact that you have a lot of responsibility on this ownership, is that we will never utter the sentence, "This is not your job to do," right? If you spot a problem, go fix it. Great. Show us what you got.
So as chief of staff in this fast-growing tech company, how do you balance being unconventional with maintaining a can-do attitude?
I think those two are not mutually exclusive.
That's all.
That's all. I said it was to the point, so.
So what are then some unconventional approaches you've taken that have paid off for Bunq?
Yeah, I have a great example. It hasn't only paid off for Bunq, it has paid off for everyone that's banking, for the safety of the banking sector as a whole. So as a bank, we obviously are looking at the use of accounts for safety, anti-money laundering. We're having a close look to make sure that everything is as safe as possible. The regulator requires us to do that in a certain way. And we thought that this way was quite outdated. So we decided to build an AI model that actually looks at the behavior of our users and detects whether it's fraudulent behavior or not. And of course, the human will still look at it and assess it. But it was way more effective than the way in which we had it set up before. So we went to the regulator and we showed them, this is what we made. We'd love to implement it everywhere. Unfortunately, the regulator decided that they wanted to do the outdated way still. So we decided to take it to court. And a couple of years later, the ruling took place. And we won, which is great. And not just for us, but for the safety in the banking sector as a whole, because all banks can now use AI in their money laundering procedures.
So let's talk a bit about Ali's, your CEO's keynote on Bunq's continuous expansion. Yeah. What are the key factors in building a user-centric business?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of elements to it. I mentioned a couple already, but I'll recap them. So one is making sure that your commercial success is actually in line with your users. Because if your commercial success is not in line with your users, you will never be a true user-centric company, right? It will be rather a tagline. Making sure that you're obsessed with your users, finding out what it is they want, looking at the data, but also talking to them and truly trying to understand. Don't make any assumptions. And also making sure that it's implemented in all of your processes. So apart from the template, the business proposals that I just mentioned, if you can't answer the question, what's in it for a user, we're not doing it. We have many more ways of doing so. For example, our whole company is mirroring, in terms of company structure, mirrors the user journey. So the steps that the user goes through. That's the way we set up our teams. So you need to make sure that it's implemented. This user obsession is implemented not just in your head, but also in concrete processes and setups.
And are there any particular examples of how Bunq has adopted its services based on user needs and preferences? Any interesting story around it? Yes,
sure. I have many, so let me have a think. I mean, I think one interesting one that speaks to the broader sector is, it's not necessarily surprising me, but it's an example of how we are truly focused on what's important for our users. So we have been in a zero interest rate environment for a long time. That started changing a year ago, or a bit longer. Don't pin me down on it. So when the European Central Bank started to raise interest rates, that was the first time in our history that we had to deal with that, right? So we decided, okay, what is it that we need to do with this? What's within our strategy? What makes sense? And to us, it was a no-brainer that we're going to pass on that benefit to our users, right? We benefit, you benefit. So we actually have been driving market high rates in the market, which is great, obviously, for the user, but what is even greater is that traditional banks have been following, and they have been raising faster than they otherwise would have.
How has Bunq's use of AI to automate search marketing impacted your overall marketing strategies and outreach efforts?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on the matter, but what I do know is because we automate, not just with search marketing, but with a lot of things, we automate the manual processes, right? We automate the things that you don't need expertise for, and therefore the people, the human touch, we can actually focus on what is important and adding value, so without having to think about processes and doing all kinds of manual tasks. So in that sense, it's about speeding everything up.
And when it comes to brand identity, how do you maintain and enhance Bunq's brand identity in a competitive financial services market?
Yeah, playing your own game. So our brand, we say we make life easy for our users. So what that means is that we cut through all the complexities that there are in the banking sector, and we make it very simple for our users. So in the same way, we need to launch simple products. We focus on simplicity. Is this actually clear and simple to our users? In that way, we also try to communicate with our users. We try to keep everything simple in a sector where we tend to overcomplicate things very much.
So from your perspective, what do you see as the future of marketing at Bunq? And what new strategies or technologies are you excited to explore in the coming years?
The future of marketing. It's an interesting one because we've been talking about AI a lot, right? And I think, of course, it will help us being far more efficient. But I think with all these technologies coming up, what's most important the upcoming years is actually human connection. So I know that may sound high level, but I'm very excited to see how we can implement that in our brand and in our marketing, that we can go at rapid speed, but don't lose touch of what makes us us.
All right, so the last question for you is of a personal kind.
Oh, God.
What would you be doing in your life if not this?
Writing books.
In the age of AI.
Not about AI. Hi, I am Bianca Zwart, Chief of Staff to the founder and CEO at Bunq, the second largest neobank. Catch me on the Technologies of the Month show.